I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Attack ships on fire off the shoulder of Orion. I watched sea beams glitter in the dark near the Tannhauser Gate. All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears.
In GAMFT Season 2.
Time is 2:59 on the PM.
Is it actually? It is actually. That's the correct time, isn't it?
That is. Yeah, I just looked at my phone.
Got to be even in a comedy bit. You've got to be factually accurate. I was thinking with this week because it's season 2. Yeah.
Yes.
We just reintroduced the whole thing
concept. Sure. Yeah.
Because we're gonna pick up. Hopefully, we'll pick up steam with this one.
Yeah.
Should we dive into it?
Yeah. Sure. Let's.
Are you recording anyway? Are you recording right now?
I certainly am. It records when you start when the conversation starts when the call starts. So do we want to dive into Blade Runner? Or do we want to do a reintroduction of?
Let's do a reintroduction stuff. Okay. Yeah, you kick us off. I've got some things to get off the floor.
All right, sounds good. So welcome to GAMFT. GAMFT stands. The T is silent. GAMFT stands for me, Gerard, and Mark. FaceTime. So basically, we're two longtime friends who have moved. Well, I've moved several thousand miles away to the United States. Mark is in the West.
The same place I was 10 years ago when you left. Literally.
Yeah. And as a way of keeping in touch and talking more, we decided to start FaceTiming regularly and thought, well, there's no point in doing anything anymore unless it's content, right? Content.
That's what I said in episode 1. That's a callback.
It is a callback. Yeah, there we go. So we generally discuss film, something on TV, some kind of social issue. We've done podcasts, other podcasts, and TV stuff, and then internet videos, various different kinds of things that just pique our interest and just chat about them, basically.
Yeah, whatever, really. Yeah. And actually, you know what? Hey, season 2. Season 2. If anybody wants to send us in something.
Yes.
It's been a couple of months since we did this. How was your summer? Instead of how was your week? Get it?
There you go. Yeah. It kind of flew by, to be honest with you. It was pretty good. Just working and various things. Yeah, nothing really super eventful, to be honest with you. Just pretty standard. Rode the bike around a bunch, tried to stay out of the heat. We had a couple of, I guess probably 6 weeks of really high temperatures here where it was probably in the hundreds, so probably high 30s every day. And then you came and visited, which was very pleasant. Yes. And we shot some stuff and went and saw some things, which, depending on how we edit it, we're going to have some car GAMFs from a couple of movies we went to see.
Yeah, there will be a later episode that is actually an earlier episode that we will drop it out there. I think that one I looked, and both those films come out on video in mid to late November, so I'll probably do it then.
Okay, great. I won't spoil it.
No,
yeah,
no spoilers.
So pretty good overall. Kind of flew by, like I said. It was pretty quick summer. There was a potential that I was going to go to Puerto Rico for a little bit there for a conference, and never did. Now
there's no more Puerto Rico.
Exactly. Yeah, it was the week before the hurricane hit as well that I was supposed to go there to present, and definitely heart goes out to the people out there. It's a tough situation for them. So
yeah, everyone affected by those hurricanes and the Vegas thing and everything.
How was your summer?
Same as yours.
Yeah, just kind of flew by.
I don't have a motorbike. You didn't come and visit me. We didn't film anything here. Exactly the same as yours.
Yeah.
No, I was around here most of the summer, so I helped out at my parents' farm a little bit.
Cool.
Trying to think of anything significant that happened that I wasn't visiting you. But I visited you.
Yeah.
And we did this, but offline, off content. Although there will be content, like we said. I'm trying to think what the hell else I did. There is an element where it just flew by, or it feels like it did anyway.
It's weird how that
I
happens.
I went on a little holiday in I was about to say Devon, Cornwall, to visit Harry.
Yes,
that was kind of nice. Did that for a couple of days. That was really nice. Shout out to Harry. She'll be listening at some point.
Whereabouts in Cornwall does she live?
Bude.
Bude. Oh, okay.
Which is not a place I've ever been. I actually went as part of it. We went to Ilfracombe, where I holidays as a child.
Oh yeah.
And we managed to find the actual location of the caravan we used to stay in when we were young, based on my really shitty geolocation skills and a bit of memory. Like, I knew where it was along the coast. And we drove up into the hills. Like, this is too high. Went back down, and then we managed to get. It turns out it was never in Ilfracombe. It was in a place called. I want to call it Heel, but apparently no. I wanted to call it Helly, but apparently it's called Heel.
Oh, H-E-L-L-E.
No, H-E-L-E.
Oh, okay.
So,
what I'm thinking of.
Helly, but Heel apparently.
Heel, okay.
Like, you know,
I had a similar sort of thing, not in person. On so when I was a young lad, my mom's
youngling.
When I was a youngling, we went to Cage and Amuria. No, my mother's friend's sister bought like a derelict barn in northern France and turned it into a holiday home.
Okay.
And I was like, I kind of remember where it is, so I kind of did a Google Street View revisiting of that place, trying to find where it was, and I found the corner where I remember walking to the corner shop, which was about probably a mile up this tiny little farm track. And it's a one-horse town called Helsay in northern France, in Normandy, near a place called Goron. And I remember there was, but it was kind of fun. It's amazing how much of that stuff is street viewed now. I mean, you could go down the track toward where the farm was. You couldn't quite get to where the house was, but I could see it, and it was amazing how just from memory I was able to kind of trace back and go, okay, I think it was there. That road looks like it's the right shape, and actually find it. You know, I remember eating white Smarties from the little shop that was in Helsay. They had Smarties, and they had all the regular colors, but also had a white one, and it was white chocolate, and it was delicious.
I was about to say, white Smarties just been left out in the sun too long. Don't eat those.
Yeah.
So that was my summer. We didn't really talk about the summers.
That's fine.
Let's do our favorite segment. What are you drinking? I heard you open something.
I am drinking, as fairly usual, Cherry Coke Zero.
Nice. I've got water.
Water.
It's my trifecta again. The end of a root beer I left down here earlier on. I forgot about it. It's still really cold because it's really cold down here. Hence the hat.
Yes, I was thinking that might be the reason.
And well, I was just wearing it anyway, and I was going to take it off, and now I've forgotten, so I'm just going to stick with it.
Yeah.
When I went out, because it's October, is
this some kind of pumpkin spice thing?
No, it's much better. Or at least it's worse. It'll better. I got a litre of beer and a stein for £10.
let's. I want to hear what kind of monumental sound this thing makes.
It's probably going to spit up all into my face.
Excellent.
How was that? Oh, it smells really beery.
That's pretty good.
So,
it looks like a paint can.
It does, doesn't it? Look at that. 1 litre. I think they've made it specifically that big, so because it sat in the stein like that.
Oh, okay.
In a cardboard box.
That's pretty sweet. Is it cold?
It was. I put it in the fridge when I got back. But it won't be by the time I've drunk it. Let's see if I can pour this. Screenshot this while I do it, just in case I fuck this up. Oh no, I'm doing all right. How much head's this thing going to have by the end of it? That's the
pretty
concern.
Big as my imagine. Is my imagine? Pretty big as my imagine.
It's your imagine, you know? It's your imagine. In theory, it should be as big as that top section here, I think. Oh, it's going to be way bigger.
Yeah.
It's going to be way bigger. Oh, look at that.
There you go. Marvellous.
I've still got beer in there.
Well, yes, because the head's half the glass.
Yeah.
On to Blade Runner?
On to Blade Runner.
Okay.
Leave a gap to include music or something.
Commerce is our goal here at Tyrell. More human than human is our motto. Rachel is an experiment, nothing more.
We began to recognize in them strange obsession. After all, they are emotionally inexperienced with only a few years in which to store up the experiences which you and I take for granted. If we gift them with the past, we create a cushion or pillow for their emotions, and consequently we can control them better.
Memories. You're talking about memories.
Right, so do you want to do... How were you going... let's just explain our history with Blade Runner, shall we? Starting
That's
with
what I was
yourself.
kind of thinking, yeah. Okay, so I first saw Blade Runner when I was a bit too young, the original, and didn't really get on with it super well when I first saw it. I kind of thought that it looked cool, but it was right. I don't know. I should probably have learned the history of this, but it was the director's cut was the first one that I saw, and just kind of, I think I was a little bit too young for it, so went several years without watching it and kind of thinking, I don't really like it. Then came back to it probably in my early 20s. Found a DVD copy of it or somewhere. I was just like, it's like 99 pence or something, you know. And absolutely fell in love with it. Thought it was fantastic. And it was pre-final cut at that point, so it was still director's cut. But also ended up seeing the theatrical cut with the voiceover, and thought it was absolutely terrible. I have no love for that version of the film. But yeah, I really adore the original film. I think it's kind of a masterpiece of atmospheric world building. It's a fairly simplistic plot. When you kind of boil it down, it's fairly straightforward, but I always feel like I'm very involved in it. How about you? How did you come to it?
Quite similar. I mean, I grew up watching the theatrical cut on TV, so I actually have a lot of affection for that version.
Okay, a lot of people do who saw that first. I just didn't see it first, so it's like, what have they done?
No, I totally get that, because everyone says the same thing about the director's cut. You know, that's 90 or 91, I think that comes out, and it was apparently, I read the other night, it was released by accident first.
The director's cut was?
Yeah, I don't know how you release something by accident, but I guess it existed, or a half-finished version of it existed, and they must have just shipped it on video or something.
Whoops.
And that was when people were like, "Wait, what's this?"
Oh, got you, yeah.
And that's when they go back and it gets the re-release and it comes out properly in the start of the 90s. I don't know how that's that's completely unreferenced, but yeah, that's what I read.
Interesting.
But yeah, they don't advertise for killers in the newspaper and stuff. I kind of dug all that because I like old black and white film noir crap.
Yeah,
and that fits quite well in there. And then, actually, now you see the other one. It's obvious that it's bad, and there's actually not that much of it. It disappears for whole sections of the film until they're trying to drill home a point.
Is that right? Because I haven't seen that version in a long time, so in my mind it's constant. But there's big chunks where it's not.
Well, there's really not that much of it. It just disappears for whole sections. And
legend is that Harrison Ford hated the idea and kind of half-assed it.
Yeah, tried to do it so bad they wouldn't use it. He said that's not true.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like that he would never try and do something so badly, or whatever. But I mean, either way, it wasn't good. But the lines weren't good. So
no.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was the one I grew up with, and then I saw the director's cut. Must have been when it was new on video or something.
Yeah.
And then I drop out of it for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I never really consciously acknowledged how big a film it was in my childhood until I see it in the cinema, which for me actually is probably one of those big things where you actually you watch it for the first time. For me, like you see it properly for the first time. And usually nowadays I watch a lot of classics in the cinema, and every time I do, it's like fuck, like all these things I've never noticed. And so when they re-released the final cut, which I didn't see when they put it out in 2007 or something. It's been about 10 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But they did another release of it in 2012, 2013. I know I saw it in Cambridge.
I mean, the version that I've got is from around then, but I don't know how long it was. That was about when I bought it. So the final cut release that I have, the Blu-ray. So I don't know when they did the Blu-ray.
Maybe but yeah, when I saw that one, I don't know why, but it was like reawakening a love for it in me.
Yeah.
So it was something that was around a lot when I was a kid, and I watched quite a lot when I was a kid in that version. And then I don't know, I just bubbled through it, 90s, early 2000s.
Sure.
And then when I saw it in the cinema, I was like, it was weird because I remember just watching it and thinking how influential it was on me without consciously acknowledging that before. Like the way I do, you've probably seen it. Like, you know, when I use chopsticks and I rub them like that.
Yeah.
That's Deckard. I got that from him.
Oh, really? Deckard
Like,
does it when he's sitting at the noodle bar, right?
Yeah. And I was watching that. Like, that's where I got that from. You know, like he taught me how to use fucking chopsticks.
That's amazing.
Because how else would I have learned? Like we never got Chinese food at the farm or anything.
No.
That's how I learned to use chopsticks.
Interesting.
And I'm sure there's any number of films that I learned little stupid things from that was just like, that's how you do that.
Yeah. I learned how to wear transparent plastic Macintoshes with nothing underneath from that movie.
Holding a snake.
Holding a snake, yeah. Having my hair change dramatically and make age me 20 years between it being wet and dry.
Yeah, by going in the dome thing. Dome thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was watching it the other night. I was just like, the hair looked a lot better when it was just
slick back. Yeah, honestly, it ages her by a long time. It's
but yeah, so since 2012, 2013, whenever I saw it in the cinema, I've just been kind of like, yeah, you know, it's like a modern reawakening of a love for it, and so because of that, I'm quite hot on it now. So like, I don't think quite as much as you were. But I was so up for 2049 once it was a real thing, and especially once it was going to be Denis Villeneuve, because I'm a big fan of Sicario and Arrival, and to a lesser extent Prisoners. I still haven't seen his giant spider one, the Enemy.
It's Denis Villeneuve.
That's it, Denis. I can't even say it. How did you say it?
Villeneuve. But it's interesting. So another big part of the original Blade Runner for me, aside from the aesthetic, which I'm a sci-fi guy, so the cityscape, the dingy cityscape, and flying cars and flames coming out of buildings and giant monolithic skyscraper thing was really very, very appealing to me, and I love all the green screen technology in it. But the music as well was a massive, massive part of it for me, because I'm a synth guy as well. So Vangelis' score was just seminal and astonishing to me. So I absolutely loved that. So, and I think that really, for me, as I aged, all of those elements kind of, I recognized that there were multiple elements that really led into my love for it. And it's interesting you say kind of like there was a drop off in interest and then a resurgence. I wonder if it's just aligned with, the run up to the final cut being re-released, because I know it was 07, but for me the interest started coming back in the early 2000s as well, probably when I was in my early 20s. So, but
I think there was.
It could also just be because like it wasn't shown on TV anymore.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
There's a social kind of reappraisal of Ridley Scott as the director that happens around then, because like you hit Gladiator and then he's this he's on a different level because his 90s kind of sucked, with
Godzilla.
No, he didn't make that.
Stargate.
What did he make? No, that's the same guy. Those two were both the same guy.
I'm just naming Roland Emmerich movies to piss you off.
No, it's good. I like it. You know what? I was about to say G.I. Jane, and I assumed Tony Scott did that, but no, he directed G.I. Jane.
Ridley Scott directed G.I. Jane?
Yeah,
oh,
I was going to say that, and then
idea.
I second guessed myself, but no, he directed G.I. Jane. That was the last one before Gladiator. Yeah, it would make sense that the reappraisal of Ridley Scott happens post Gladiator because of the Oscars and everything, and then, I mean, it's probably that and what came after that buys him the cachet to go back and do the final cut.
Yeah.
But anyway, shall we get into the meat of quickly of the original one, and how do you view the outcome of it, like take 2049 out of the equation?
Yeah.
How at the end of like your version of Blade Runner?
Yeah.
How do you feel about Rachel and Deckard?
So the way I always saw it was that they have
drive off into the distance,
exactly,
in a nice sunlit
flying
in a
car.
Beetle for some reason. No, it's just a Beetle, isn't it? At the end of the theatrical version,
I don't remember, to be honest. But so my thought is that the hunter has fallen in love with his prey, and they go off to because they're never going to get left alone. Baff. Why do I always forget his name?
Gaff.
Gaff. There you go. Edward James Olmos. There's that echoing dialogue of they'll never leave you alone.
Too bad she won't live.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm thinking that they're off on an adventure or to go into hiding and live a life together. consequences be damned in terms of where it puts them in the eyes of the law. I think what you're hinting at is what is Deckard? Is Deckard human or not? I never.
Well, that's you know.
I admit I never thought about it. I never contemplated it until I started reading stuff about it online and hearing other people's perspectives on it, saying, oh yeah, but Deckard's clearly a replicant. It's like, wait, where are you getting that from? I went back and watched it again, and it's interesting to kind of see. Well, I could kind of see how you could make a case for it, but you know, it feels like Alex Jones levels of credulity, to be honest.
Did not expect him to raise his head in this. No, yeah, that's fine. I mean, obviously, like over the years, different things have been said by different people about it. I'm with you. I mean, I never thought he was, but I never really gave it much thought. The version I grew up with never even raised the question, I suppose.
No, didn't hint at it.
You know, it was just Gaff liked making fucking stupid origami things.
Yeah.
And no offense to anyone who loves making origami things, they're fine.
No, they're fucking stupid.
Okay, fucking stupid origami things. Maybe an episode title there. So that was never really part of it, and I, you know, as much as I kind of like the fact that the version I grew up with had a happy ending, I love the ending of the other cuts where it's literally just he picks it up, he does that little nod, and then he just, you know, and it's all handheld. They just follow him into that lift, it shuts, bang, and it just
credits.
It's just kind of like it's just that little you know, raise of energy and raise of intent that just leads you into a kind of, okay, you're going to leave with a lot of questions about, well, not questions, a lot of ideas about what comes next, and that's going to be enough, and that'll get you through the next 30 years until there's a sequel. But yeah, and sorry, what I was going to say was that over the years, obviously, Ridley Scott's very convinced he is.
Yes, that's what I've heard,
you know,
too.
And Harrison Ford has said the opposite. But then Harrison Ford said a lot of things about how much he hated it and how much he'd never do a sequel, and here we are.
True.
So,
yeah. I mean, I don't want to get, probably not wise to get into it, but I've read all sorts of things about the production and how it was absolutely hellacious.
He literally said that his favorite thing about working on it was going home in the mornings, because he worked, you know, it was all done overnight because LA in the darkness and everything. And I mean, I should think it was a tough shoot because I mean, you see how much effort must have gone into lighting that.
Oh, seriously, yeah.
I imagine there was a lot of waiting around, and I get the impression it was probably not the most organized of shoots, just from the way the film was and how I imagine a lot of things changed on the set. But that, just the effort that went into producing that look must have taken a lot of time.
Well, there's nothing in that film that really feels like a set. You know, sometimes when you see things, even big budget things, you kind of go, "Oh, that's a cool set." But with the original Blade Runner, you just kind of think you're in the world. At least that's one of the things that I love about it, is that I never kind of like have that step back where I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of a cool effect." I'm 100% bought in. I'm a mark for Blade Runner, I guess.
Blade Runner turns heel on you in the next 20 minutes. I'm going to be so upset. But no, yeah, same thing. Like, there's so much, like, there's backlot and there's real LA and there's sets and there's all sorts, but it's such a lived-in world and so done on a budget, I think, as well, that it's such a crazy achievement in any way. And you know, we both know that, like, that sort of destroyed almost sci-fi for the next 20 years, you know, in terms of trying to look like that. And it still does. I mean, Ghost in the Shell earlier this year is still very Blade Runner.
And so I actually talked to my mom about this, and she read the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep First?
Okay.
She's a big Philip K. Dick fan in the 70s and when she was growing up. And from her recollection, there's no hint of that in the book.
I doubt there was in the script. I think it was one of those ideas that they're kind of like, in the way that filmmaking doesn't anymore. There's a lot of kind of beat, you know, that 70s, early 80s period. There's probably a lot of drugs on set, you know.
Yeah, probably.
There's a lot of kind of beat people working in film that are kind of like, it's essentially like sci-fi Easy Rider, you know. So I think there's a lot of things where there's a script, but they're kind of working through a lot of things on the day. And I think some of the replicant stuff certainly ends up coming in there as it goes along, and they're kind of like, oh, what about this? How's about this? And then that's how it's kind of almost like the conversation was 5 years earlier. It's something that's shaped in the edit more than in the script.
Right.
Where does this sit for your mother? Is she a big fan of the film, or is she just a big fan of Philip K. Dick?
Big fan of Philip K. Dick to begin with. Really liked the first film.
Oh, that sounds ominous.
Had some interesting perspectives on it, quite frankly. That I was like, the phrase "you're just wrong about that" may have come out of my mouth when we were talking about it.
Oh, we'll get into that in the second half of this.
It was about the first one, actually. So I mean,
really?
I could mention it. So in her view, Roy Batty, Rutger Hauer is the protagonist of the first film, and so she kept comparing him to Ryan Gosling's character Kay, and I'm like, no. Compare Kay to Deckard. They are the analogs between the two films in my mind. So that was when I was just like, I've jokingly said, you keep saying that Roy Batty is the protagonist. You're just wrong. But as someone who's kind of a long-time Philip K. Dick fan, it was interesting to hear her perspective on 2049.
And because it's, to an extent, it's the same people taking their world further without even going back to the book.
Yes, it's a continuation very much of the narrative from the first film, I think.
Yeah, with everything they created or whatever, like
precisely,
no even like reverence, I would think, for what Dick had done. So,
even though in 2049 it does say based upon the Android Stream of Electric Sheep in the titles.
I think it'd have to, though, legally.
Does it really legally? Okay, interesting.
I would think so, because it's based on a property that's based on.
Yeah, that's true, and that property is probably still in copyright.
Character names, I don't even know. I can't even remember whether any character names were taken from the book.
I think Deckard is from the book, but I'm not sure.
That's what I was wondering, but I
think I
can't
have read
remember.
the book, but I think I read it when I was fairly young, or maybe started it and never finished it. I'm not sure.
I thought you might be able to help me with the case. Any idea where I could find him?
You police plan on taking me in?
I would much prefer that to the alternative.
You're a cop. I had your job once.
Things were simpler then.
What do you want?
I want to ask you some questions. What happened?
I covered my tracks, scrambled the records. We were being hunted.
By who?
You're out there somewhere, Beer Baron, and I'll find you. No, you won't.
Before you saw the film, how were you feeling about it? And in a non-spoiler way, what did you make of it?
Before I saw the film, I was excited. I deliberately avoided reviews. I deliberately avoided too many of the trailers. I saw a couple of things on Facebook, the little square trailers they keep putting out these days, and a couple of the teasers in the theater. My overall image of it was, it looks absolutely stunning. I just hope that, but I remember thinking that I remember seeing stills from the remake of Total Recall and thinking it looked okay, and so I was cautious about it. So I deliberately tried not to build it up too much because I was worried about being disappointed. But I absolutely loved this film. I thought it was fantastic.
Nice.
I was hooked from the very second the logos started coming up and they were all staticky and Blade Runner-y, and then the music started hitting, and there was that kind of that Vangelis-esque hit with the kind of whiny synth with the I forget the guy's name, but it's the guy, he did the music for Arrival, I think, as well, didn't he?
Actually, no.
Did he not? Okay.
Because I checked after I watched it, and that guy had to quit it, and it was done by someone in Hans Zimmer, which is why you get
Hans
those
Zimmer
like
was in it, yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
things. But I don't know why. But he left it
That's a shame.
relatively late on, so I think the Hans Zimmer and the other guy only had maybe 3 months to put together that soundtrack, which weirdly happened with Rogue One as well.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, they did a fabulous job, though.
Johan Johansson, or whatever his name was, didn't end up doing it, but he was supposed to do it, and I think he was the guy that did Arrival.
Okay.
Which is a shame, because I kind of now want to see what he came up with and maybe hear why he left, but I'm sure that'll come out down the line.
Yeah, so as soon as the music started hitting, though, and the opening imagery was going on, I was pretty much in, and it was from there. It just for me went from strength to strength, and I really enjoyed the pacing of it. I really enjoyed the way it looked. The story was very similar in many regards in terms of complexity, I would say, to the first film. I thought it was what they did with Harrison Ford's character, and when they introduced him, was kind of interesting and fairly brave, because it was fairly it's a bit of a spoiler, but it was fairly late on into the film.
Yeah.
Not a massive fan of Ryan Gosling generally. I haven't really seen a whole lot with him in, but I thought he was kind of appropriate for this role because it was a fairly blank character. And yeah, I think his that's a do it again. Okay, yeah, that face.
Imagine a prettier version of that.
It is appropriate for that role, where he is essentially the role of replicants has been shifted, and you know he's very different than the replicants in the first film. So no, I thought it was
that's a bit of a spoiler.
Oh, okay, you can cut it out.
No, it's fine. Fuck it, we're into spoilers now.
We lasted all of like 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's fine. Just we'll put it in the show notes.
Okay, good to know. But yeah, it was. I thought it was really, really fantastic. What were your thoughts on it?
Because we're already in spoilers, I'm just going to say same.
Okay.
I don't think I had as many. I don't think I bigged it up as much as you had. But even then, I know you kept yourself from disappointment. But I was so waiting for it to come out for a little while now. But it wasn't kind of like, I'm betting my entire life on this film.
Right.
You know, like.
Yeah.
But I was looking forward to seeing it because, like you said, it looks really great, and it's Roger Deakins, and I fucking love Deakins.
Oh.
Deakins like a motherfucker is an expression me and Luke use occasionally when things look good.
For the audience's sake, what else has Deakins done? This is for the audience's sake.
For the audience's sake.
Yeah.
He did he do the last Bond film, or did he do Skyfall? But they managed to get him for that. I saw him once, or I'm absolutely certain I saw him once walking through the BFI foyer while I was in a workshop thing upstairs, and I just saw him walk through, and someone must have noticed him, and he just kind of gave him a wink and a point like that, and to me, I just imagine someone like, because I would have probably gone, I would have fucking Deakins!
Deakins like a motherfucker!
Yeah, wink and a point, and he just looks so happy, and he looks like such a joyous, tall old man.
Oh, I love it.
Right, his top 4 on IMDb are Shawshank.
Oh, wow.
No Country for Old Men.
Stunning looking film.
Beautiful Mind.
Okay.
And Skyfall. So he shot Skyfall.
Gotcha.
Okay. Right, so should we go full spoiler? Because I know we're just starting around. Do you want to just go full spoiler?
Did you see it? You saw it 2D though, right?
I did see it. You saw it 2D?
I did.
You saw
2D IMAX.
I was about to say, you saw the 2D IMAX. For some reason, over here, we've just got the 3D IMAX, so I'm not going to go and see it in IMAX.
No, fair.
Did it have any height to it, or was it still
It had height
235?
To it. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure it went to the top of the screen.
Oh, bummer. Okay, so it's actually a different, so it's got more.
Yeah, and it was, and the sound.
Yeah.
From that first whoa, I was like,
yeah,
I'm in this. It's brilliant.
Fuck. Now I want to see it on IMAX.
So good. But yes, okay. If we're going into spoilers,
yeah, deep dive, folks.
Deep dive. So we open on the this aerial shot, and we see Batista. Who we find out is Batista. And
his amazing metal helmet.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, and that's another thing that was very strong about this. I thought was the costume design is phenomenal. And immediately I know that he's kind of the what's the name of the character? Is it Harry?
Oh, do you mean Wake Up, Time to Die?
Wake Up, Time to Die. You're right. It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's so.
Leon. There you go.
Leon. That's his name. And he so to me he felt like a kind of an equivalent to Leon, maybe some kind of battle unit. And then he talks about him being in the war and stuff like that.
And he was a Nexus
kind of
he was 7. He was a pre-Blackgate. He was a Rachel. He was a
He was And there's a pretty amazing
bang,
fight scene.
Bang against the wall,
smashing him against. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's just smashing Ryan Gosling against the wall.
To the other side of the wall, you just see it like it's sort of yawning as every time.
It's just like bulging. Yeah, that was a great bit of filmmaking, I thought. And I kind of want to cut an oi hippie fuck off into that. But anyway. As soon as that moment where he's getting repeatedly slammed into the wall, and then they go through, and he punches Batista, and he's I kind of, that was the second that I knew, okay, definitely a replicant.
Okay, so for me, and this will happen a couple of times, I got ahead of the story visually, and it started to annoy me. I wish they'd taken about 20% of some of the on-screen story or the told story out. Because it would have made it would have slightly like obfuscated it and kept me a little happier, because it felt like occasionally they put just a little too much in to try and get people on board. When he's in the car, before he even gets out of the car, he's got his little ID badge on the screen saying who he is after he calls whoever, and his head's doing that thing, and he's naked in the picture, and it's like,
oh, it's just like those original, ID photos from the
he's got
original
the little
replicants
head stocking, and he's just doing that. And I was like, oh, so he's definitely a replicant. And
okay,
sorry,
I missed that.
This is the thing, because I watch everything, like, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, he's definitely a replicant then. And also, he was Officer K, jumble of letters and numbers, rather than he's got a name. And I was like, oh, he's definitely a replicant. And then Batista says it, doesn't he? It's like, you kill our own kind or whatever. And I knew this. I don't like getting ahead of things, but sometimes it's just there in the production design, and I tend to see these things. Not that I'm better than anyone else. It actually sometimes disturbs my enjoyment. But yeah, I saw it then, and I knew he was a replicant from the moment he stepped out of that car. In it,
and they probably think they're being quite sneaky as well. With that, they think that only
well,
the real fans
it depends how you watch films and what you notice they're not making you look at, and I usually look for the things they're not directing you to.
Also, I mean, I tried to look around because I know that Ridley Scott does a lot of. I think he calls it layering. Is the production design, with the fact that every frame has a lot of detail in it generally. So I tried to look around a lot, but with IMAX it's a little hard.
Yeah, because actually, my neck hurts.
Yeah. So yeah, that scene happens, and then he's about to leave, and he sees the little flower, which I imagine we're meant to think that Batista had left as kind of a memorial, because that's where the box of bones is.
Yeah, buried. Initially,
it wasn't growing. Yeah. It wasn't growing. It was left. It was flat on the ground there. So yeah, he returns back to the city, and we get some really, really nice intro, nice cityscapes.
Zoomed out.
That what is really kind of very much zoomed out, and kind of over the top, like a bird's eye view. With I really like the way they had the level tops to the buildings, and with the little slits, and you kind of get a glimpse of what's going on down in there, and you're like, oh, we're going to go down there at some point.
Does it go?
See, like, transparent umbrellas and stuff.
Point? Like, it's so built up.
Yeah.
It's just all these blocks. It was the same, like, it was a parallel to the when he's going over the farming thing, and I thought it was just fields, and then you realise it's kind of sort of plastic greenhouses kind of thing.
Tents.
But yeah, you see that city, and you're so, like, it's kind of a theme of the film, isn't it? Like, showing more of the wider world of it. Like, you're so pulled back, and these cars are just now, way above it like airplanes. And then, you kind of descend into it. So, yeah, carry on, sir.
Yeah, and then we return to the precinct, and he's doing what seems like a revised version of the GAMFT test. where he's got to repeat these phrases, and there's some kind of like machine that's
and an angry man
tracking his. Angry man. Yeah. And he's like says a word, and he always has to say.
Yeah, apart from some phrases, which he has to say the whole phrase. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I like how that's not. In my mind, in lazy filmmaking, they would have someone kind of going. They'd have like a couple of detectives standing outside, watching through the window, going, "The reason
Skin Job's doing
his
whatever test.
Exactly what it's about.
I hear that's because of that. Oh, you didn't know that? Well, it turns out, yeah. Well, that's the stuff. That was the stuff that worked the best, where it was just like correcting context or whatever. They were just doing it, and you got why they were doing it like that. Other things I felt were slightly more signposted than I could have done. I've heard that with Arrival, what did you call him earlier on? Dennis
Villeneuve.
Dennis Villeneuve. I heard that he would just take things out, would just like cut it back, and I feel like that happened in certain parts of the film and not in other parts. And I think one of the reasons for the length is actually trying to make a slow 1982 style film, but with a lot of modern trappings, actually means that it just balloons out in size.
Sure.
Whereas I think if you'd taken some of those things out, you could actually make a slightly short film. But anyway, that's one of my few criticisms of it.
So what you're saying is the director's cut of this will be like 30 minutes shorter.
Yeah, I think it might. I liked all that test stuff and all the precinct stuff. And I liked that everyone, they really seemed to fucking hate him.
They did, yeah, like fuck off, skin job was one of the things I like.
Yeah,
but
they're all like
a cop who made a beeline
head.
toward him.
Yeah, like when in
to shoulder check him. Yeah.
But they're all skinheads, and it's like this weird and when he goes home, there's that like old Russian woman just fucking yelling at him.
Yeah,
I love that.
That was amazing. Yeah, and it really seems like a horrible world to be living in. And it says like like there's some graffiti on his door and stuff. And people just hanging out in the corridors, tattooed druggies.
Living in those corridors. Like that old Russian woman or whatever was just living there.
I think you're right, yeah.
But then he gets home, and obviously he makes his living off killing, in the same way Deckard did. And he gets in, he's got his nice home, and he's got his joy unit. I made notes. Do you want my notes as we go along?
I'd love your notes.
Okay, so the one for that I have is Alexa meets a real doll. Joy.
That's a good description. Yeah, and I thought it was interesting how it was Joy and it was branded JOI, and it really did feel like, give it however many years it is from now until 2049, and that is going to be what Alexa / Siri is.
Exactly. I thought, the only thing I thought when I guess we were both Red Dwarf fans back in the day, and I thought there was a hard light, soft light thing happening with that little upgrade stick.
I did too. Because
she seemed to be able to touch him a bit more.
She did, and the raindrops were touching her hand, but then kind of phasing in and out. I did quite like how she after he does that upgrade. Is it an emerger? I think that's what they called it, an emerger.
Something like that.
When they go outside, and it kind of looked to me like a balcony that was similar to where Roy Batty and Deckard have their fight and the Tears and Rain speech happens. And they're kind of having their moment, and she just freezes, and he gets a voicemail.
Yeah, no,
I thought marvelous.
Yeah. It was good because it completely killed the moment, and obviously you're trying to kill the moment because it's so. There's a couple of sections of this film that are nicely emotionally charged, and then a lot of the rest of it is quite cold.
Yes,
and I think that'll probably turn audiences off it a little bit. But it was one of the reasons I liked it so much because it kind of, you kind of have this that version, the cold. You took a screenshot of it version of Ryan Gosling, and then occasionally he'll just have this kind of little outburst, like when he kicks the chair or when he whatever, and all the sexy time bit, and it's kind of a weird slight imbalance. It just keeps you at this cold, numb kind of modern life level, and then it'll occasionally just spike you up, emotionally. And I kind of really responded to that. I thought it was really nice.
I agree. Yeah.
Not nice, but it was really effective.
And
the Joy thing, she's actually, not to be your mother about it, but I think almost Joy was the beating heart of it a little bit emotionally, but in a way that actually later on you feel is a giant rug pull, meaningless program. Like it's all not conceited, but it's kind of what's the word? Like pre-programmed,
It's hollow, yeah. And
hollow is the right word.
But I think there's also so because I thought that as well, and I think the scene if we jump forward, the scene you're referring to is when he's walking back right toward the end of the film, and he sees the advertisement for Joy, and she leans down and interacts with him and
calls him Joe.
Calls him Joe. Yeah, that was the key. But also, and that's where the pre-programming comes in. But I think one of the interesting things, and this is something that I imagine the deep web message boards will be full of, is how her AI really did make her unique, and whether there's some level of sentience there, and maybe that will be the next the next level of Blade Runner storytelling is, well, replicants we now think have some kind of sentience to them and aren't just tools. Can that now be applied to AI as well? Because we've got this off-the-shelf AI that is your Joy unit, but no two Joy units are alike, and does that have ethical implications?
And just to add on from that, are any two replicants alike?
Great question, yeah.
Because it was weird, because when you go into... We're jumping around again now. We'll get back to it. Don't worry, folks. When you go into not Tyrell for the first time,
yes,
you see a box, or several boxes that have got different ones in. One of them is Batista.
Yeah.
So, but I never felt like in the first one, I felt, especially with,
there wasn't an army of Leons or an army of Roys out there, an army
exactly.
of Chris's.
There's one Roy, there's one Leon, there's one Rachel. Like, they're all made distinct.
Yes.
Which has another, we'll get to it. But each one of these replicants was still unique in their own right and was made bespoke. So it wasn't just like you had a lot of them and you couldn't just order another one. So in that respect, Joy is kind of unique in being something that's probably the same in each place and has all those different get-ups in each thing, but is probably, in terms of her AI, more distinct than each one of them.
Because she's reacting to different people and going down different paths because different people have different wants and likes and stuff.
But then there are elements of her, I think, that are the same. Like, do you think she's pre-programmed to say she loves him?
Quite possibly.
Do you think she's pre-programmed to say Joe? Is that the jump to name in terms of like John or whatever if it was a prostitute? Like,
yeah, that's what makes you think. There's an
interesting sort of. It's an interesting mess.
I started overthinking it a little bit as well. When that scene happens at the end and the giant naked advertisement calls him Joe, I was like, well, did some of her data survive in the cloud?
Okay.
And she did facial recognition of him, and she did facial recognition on him, and that means that he can retrieve a backup or something.
No. Well, they very specifically say, like, if they kill the transmit chip or whatever, she won't exist anymore. But then, like, not Tyrell won't know anything either.
Right.
Like, she'll only exist in the little pen stick thing, which I thought was nice. But that was a bit heavy-handed. I thought it was like, oh no, but I won't exist.
As soon as that happened, you knew she was a goner as well. I thought.
Yeah, that was the thing. I was like, oh, I hope they don't kill her at some point.
Yeah.
Which was one of those things that for me was just like, I don't want to get ahead of this, but you're laying it on a bit thick.
Yeah, I thought so too. So okay, jumping back.
Yes, jumping back.
Where do we go from that moment where he gets the voicemail? Do we go and meet the
Robin Wright?
Robin Wright, yeah, that's it. The his boss, Kay's boss. That's who Robin Wright is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and you're in her office, and she's making
lieutenant.
the best of a slightly underwritten role.
Yes, and one of my favorite shots in the movie, as far as practical shots went, was in that where there was from the outside of her office looking in, and there was the water going down that curved window. I absolutely loved the way that looked. I thought it was gorgeous.
I thought that office was overlit for Blade Runner and overlit for Deakins.
Oh yeah.
Like, I thought it was too much. Like, there was no shadows. It was just like downy lighting. But then, as soon as you jump outside, you know why, because you've got all this light coming through these wings, and it obscures the dialogue as well.
Yeah.
Like, there was multiple times in this film where, for me, I wished the subtitles had been on because I couldn't quite hear the lines. But the fact is, the lines aren't really important most of the time.
Well, that's like
it's the context.
Yeah, and that's a callback to the original Blade Runner, thinking about the moment where he's in the. He's trying to figure out what the snake skin, where the snake skin came from, and you just see it shot through like what feels like several windows, and he's talking to some merchant, and you can't hear what they're saying.
talking to merchants, Dr. Badger, but we'll get to him.
Is that the guy from sorry, another
I'm the Blade Runner now.
Moment. Okay, yeah, all right, it is. Good to know.
Yeah.
So after that and is that the point where she gives the whole there's a wall between the two worlds speech?
Yeah,
okay, gotcha. And sets in the task of finding out what happened, because so we must have missed a scene.
I think we probably have, but either way, like
the scene
they found the box, they've gone to the little
like
the
morgue type area,
morgue place. Yeah. I think actually we are jumping around a bit. At some point, it's confirmed that it's Rachel. The bones are Rachel.
Yes,
but obviously we know there was a C-section scar, or there was a baby. I can't remember. You see the story he has as a memory as a child, and that sort of dovetails into him trying to find the child of the dead replicant Rachel, which we already know is probably then Deckard's kid, so he's going to come into it at some point, although, like you said earlier, much later than I would have expected. And then he goes off into, I can't remember exactly why, but he discovers those two things where there's the boy and the girl.
Yes.
And the girl had the congenital disease and died. This is 750 ml of beer. The disease. And the boys lived, and he goes off to the wasteland. And this is where you get the sense, or at least I was, again, getting ahead of it. It's like, oh, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
And then very quickly he comes to believe it's him.
Yes.
And then when does he go and see the doctor in the holodeck for the first time?
That is
memories. So, can a memory be real? It's after the wasteland. It must be.
It is after the wasteland, because I think he knows it's real at that point, I believe.
Yeah, because so he goes. Let's pick it up where he goes to. He goes to San Diego, which is now just a fucking
like an outlaw wasteland. Yeah,
outlaw wasteland, which kind of made me laugh.
The female replicant ends up killing all the bandits who are coming after him with some kind of like sky missile satellite type thing.
Oh, okay. So we've already been to Wallace.
So we've already been to Wallace. Okay, yeah. So let's talk about Wallace. Yeah, okay.
This is fucking all over the shop. Sorry, folks. Yeah. So, what did you make of Jared Leto as Wallace?
I have a bit of a hard time with Jared Leto in general, but I thought he did pretty well in this role. I didn't like the facial hair so much, but I like the fact that he is just essentially...
I wish I could grow that beard.
I like the fact that he's essentially Tyrell Mark II, but instead of being kind of a geek, he's a hipster. He's
hipster.
A fascinating character to me as well, because there's a lot of stuff that's completely unsaid. So there's that whole scene where he is examining the new model of Replicant, which is a deeply unpleasant image when she falls out of the bag and she's covered in slime. And then I forget what's the name of the female replicant, like the really mean female replicant.
Love.
Love.
She's just
that's
Love.
it. Love. So she pulls out like a box, and it's got what look like mahjong tiles in it, and plugs in one behind his ear, and then all these like drones kind of show up, and start and I imagine they're feeding some kind of visual data to him so he can inspect this new replicant model. But what that got me thinking was, okay, we're supposed to think that he clearly has some kind of augment that allows him to overcome his disability, but has he done this to himself?
Oh, okay. Wow.
Or is this something that's a tool to get around his potential disability? But
would it interest you to hear that apparently he was very method on set with the blindness, and they had to give him an assistant to walk him around?
That's interesting. Okay.
The same man who used to, as Joker, would post used condoms and dead rats to people. Jared Leto, everyone.
Yeah.
Marlon Brando of our time.
Oh dear. But no, I quite enjoyed the whole aesthetic of the Wallace Corporation building was phenomenal.
Building. Was it? I thought it was the Tyrell building.
I think it was the Tyrell building, but there's a moment where he's arriving where you kind of see the slopey lower version, and it's like they've built onto it, and they've built onto it like tenfold. So the original Tyrell building is there, but it's a subset of this now massive complex.
Because that's what I thought, but I didn't notice as much the build on. But I noticed when they go up to it's that first pyramid kind of bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, he moved into his house as well?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It's like Tim Cook moving into Steve Jobs' house.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
What the fuck?
In the case where Siri came to life and killed Steve Jobs by squeezing his head. But yeah, I thought the way that looked, I loved all the yellow light and the shimmery kind of through water stuff. And it was the contrast between how the vault where they kept whatever those memory orbs were and the rest of the building and like lots of unused space. So it's clearly, that always to me signifies kind of megalomaniac type craziness. It's like Ceausescu, it's like a dictator kind of crazy, but cool.
Yeah. It didn't surprise me that they had, latterly reading that it was Glasner who did the production design, that he had done Bond films because it felt like a Bond villain layer, but in a good way. But it felt like that. And I liked the lighting of it because obviously a blind man has no use for light, so a lot of it was very dark.
Yes.
And I kind of dug that.
And so going back to the lobby scene where he gives her the hair sample, there's a kind of diagonal light from that, and it reminded me a lot of the moment where Deckard is waiting to see Tyrell and where he first meets Rachel, and they have those the window dark,
the shutter things,
wipes down almost, and it's clearly some kind of clever technology in it, and the angle of the light and the color of the light really was a callback to that, and I was just really into that visual aesthetic. I thought it was great.
It's true. No, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so we introduced Love. She's a bit of a bitch.
Yes.
I'll come back to that actually later because there was a line I didn't hear it right, but someone confirmed it for me. Neander Wallace, he's being creepy with the thing. He fucking just obviously he wants to create a replicant that can have a baby.
Yes, it's like that technology's been lost since they took over from Tyrell. Yeah.
But there must have been a record that it existed that Tyrell created Rachel maybe as the first who could.
Yeah.
And he just fucking slices her through the belly.
Oh, it's awful. Yeah.
Oh, ugh.
Really? Yeah, that was like, oh man, that's painful to watch. Because it really reminds you of, and that whole scene was very. It felt very abusive. There was this. He clearly owns this thing, and he doesn't see it, even though he refers to them as angels. He doesn't see them as angels. He sees them as things that are to further his ends. And
I mean, he literally says about the slave labor thing, that whole slave labor speech, which was in the trailers, and about how mankind had lost
their taste for
living. For organic slave labor or something, I forget what the word is, but it was kind of like we need people we can abuse to do what we need to, and he's on about like them owning the universe,
the stars,
the stars,
because he brags about having colonized 9 planets, and something that I thought they might have been tempted to do that I was kind of glad they didn't, despite my love for space travel and stuff. I thought we might end up getting like a glimpse of off-world. Because they talk about off-world.
I wondered if they were going to go off-world, especially towards the end when they're in the Lady Penelope car. I wondered if they were actually going to go off the planet.
It so is a Lady Penelope car.
It is the Lady Penelope car.
It's great. I love it.
The Lady Penelope Rolls Royce when they're flying through. Anyway, we'll get to that.
because Love says he's like, Deckard's like, where are we going? And Love says home.
Yeah.
So and where's home? And we never get home. It's like.
But Wallace says earlier on that he has all the tools off-world to make him talk or whatever.
Yes.
Like there must be certain rules that apply to Earth, and then once you get off, it's Wild West.
Right. Yeah. It's international waters.
You can do whatever, and clearly he does because he doesn't seem to spend a lot of time on Earth.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what. Then he goes off into the wasteland, in search of. They know it's Rachel at this point because they've got certain. That's when the blackout really comes into it, actually, isn't it? That you hear of this blackout, and there was. Someone says, who was it who says at some point it was 9 days until the lights came back on?
It's the file clerk.
Yes, right. Yeah. Okay, I was about to say it was in that scene somewhere, but there weren't enough people to say it.
No, because he's asking Kay about what he remembers of the blackout, and obviously, I mean, I'm sure Kay's younger than the blackout, so his incept date is after the blackout because not many replicants survived. So he kind of sidetracks, and then. Very quickly, Love takes over and comes and takes him, and that's where we we see him go and see that memory or hear that the first conversation or snippet of the first conversation between Rachel and Deckard. But then
in the little memory balls.
In the little memory balls, yeah. But then he leaves, and I think I'm pretty sure. Does it jump to? Where does it jump to after that? Because I don't think we're going out. We're venturing to the wasteland yet, are we? To Harrison Ford, or is?
No, the wasteland, San Diego wasteland.
Oh, San Diego wasteland. Okay, yeah.
And then you get the sort of wasteland dwelling scavengers or whatever. And then they're bombed from the sky, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And which is, I mean, and that was actually the only egregious kind of use of a swear word, which would have knocked it up a level in terms of a thing. Which is like, do your fucking job,
yeah.
Which just didn't feel right.
It didn't. No. It kind of felt like maybe an improv moment that they kept in. I don't know.
No, I think they wanted to make sure they got an R with you and a 15 here, so that it didn't look 12A compromised. I mean, there's some violence in that would have done it anyway, but just in case, I think let's have some elements like that just in case, just to nudge it up. Because it's not a Jurassic World reboot kind of thing. It's let's keep it for the adults kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that was probably why. I loved all the wasteland stuff. I mean, it wasn't quote unquote Blade Runner, and I think again
because it was daytime,
daytime, and it was this giant. I mean, fuck knows how they did that. Where'd you even go?
But the amount of metal. I mean, I imagine it was an actual like junkyard, scrapyard type place that they shot in.
I wonder. That's when you get into me wondering whether some of it's CG, some of it's practical, some of it's real. I think there's a whole lot going on there. There's going to be a special effects reel for this film that is going to be quite impressive.
I think you're right, yeah.
But part of it looked like a boat kind of junker yard, and part of it looked like a landfill, and then there was just so much going on.
It seemed to me like what the structures that they were dwelling in looked like radio telescopes or satellite dishes that had been upended.
Yes,
that's what it looked like to me.
There was actually literally at one point there was a dish still pointing up like bloody Endor, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was. Yeah. So that's probably where I got it from. Yeah.
But there was definitely some domes.
Yeah, and I quite like the imagery of the kind of like the forced labor, child labor sweatshop type thing.
Everything like that. And it was really interesting to see and the one kid knocks the box off, but the Fagin guy doesn't want to look like a bastard, so he kind of lets him go.
Yeah.
That was really kind of quite powerful stuff, I thought. And they're just sorting like heat sinks and fucking PCBs and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And the guy said, "Oh yeah, this is as close to off-world as they get because like some of this, unobtainium is going in the rocket ships."
Right. Yeah.
And that was quite powerful.
I did too, and I thought we've gotten a glimpse of a nightmarish world for these children, and we're kind of glossing over it a little bit, but we're seeing kind of how awful it is in this world. The Fagin character, I thought it was kind of interesting that he seemed to play it quite psychopathic.
Yeah,
like he was on the edge of, and I think he was scared for his life. I think he was worried that Kay was going to kill him.
Well, there was that moment, wasn't there, where it's like, he tells them to line up or something, like, how many do you want? And you got that impression of maybe child sexploitation happening. And then suddenly he was kind of like, I'm a cop. And he was just like,
bigger than you've tried to bust me in. Yeah, stuff like that.
And then, I feel like once he flies away again, those kids are turning on him and fucking killing him.
Yeah, yeah, it could be.
But anyway, he goes back to his record books, and by this point, he's a complete bitch.
He is, yeah. He's like whimpering, cowering kind of.
Exactly. Yeah. It was such a turn, and it was so nicely just kind of like flipped.
Yeah,
and that's why I feel like the kids are going to turn on him.
Yeah.
But that's when you're in the thing from the dream, and that was another bit where I would like, as soon as we landed there, I was like that. We're
going to see that furnace. And
I just wish they'd made the dream a little shorter, like they're just 20% out of little bits here and there would have hidden some more of that, because they showed so much of that room, and then as soon as you walk through it, it's like, that's where that other angle comes from.
That's where the chase happened. Yeah.
Because memory works like that, like that kind of like if they'd just done it in flashes and bits.
Sure,
and,
I agree. Yeah,
or maybe shot it in another weird furnace, so it didn't look quite perfect.
Yeah,
but let's not get into how I would have done it. But yeah, but then the pages are gone. So who's ripped those pages out?
Yeah, I was assuming that's Deckard tidying up.
Oh, you think?
That was kind of my thought.
I thought he was already gone by that point.
I don't know. Yeah, good question.
But it could be Batista equally. I mean,
it could. It could be one of this kind of any member of the replicant conspiracy or underground that we end up meeting. Could have done that, and it seems like they've got operatives everywhere. So who knows? It could have been one of Faken's guards who's actually a replicant who's part of the.
That's very true. Yeah. Actually, you're right. I completely forget about the underground.
Yeah,
and there's so many of them, and there seems to be so much going on with them that it's just really not shown that like they could have gone in and done that. So that doesn't matter. Actually, that's if you have any plot holes in this, you can probably just plug them with Replicant Underground.
Yeah, it's true.
You know? So he gets all that.
Yes, that's and isn't that where we go meet Memory Girl? Or is that
because he goes to see her at least at some point after that in a kind of like, can memories be real? Is this a real memory? And you get her and she's in her like sweet thing
bubble.
But she says at some point in there, and this is another thing, like 20% back out, they'd said they literally used the same phrase. They said something about the girl replicant dying of a congenitive disease, or the baby. And she says the exact same phrase when I'm in here because we were going to leave planet, but I've got a congenitive disease or whatever. But yeah, and she said the exact same thing, and I'm like, oh, she's the. At this point, I'm thinking she's the twin. There's twins.
See, I didn't get it until the very end.
Okay, so it's just me getting ahead of it, so that's all on me.
Yeah.
But it's like this much of a problem. Like the rest of it, I love, but occasionally, just story wise, I got ahead of it, and I was like, oh, she's the twin, he's the boy, she's the girl. I hope this doesn't come out at any point, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's that might be a weakness of it, and I think it was probably down to me being just so in it and so bought into it that.
No, that's good. I'm so glad, because like it's me, like because I unpack these things as I go, so I'm taking into account like how much time they got getting these shots and how they lit that and how much this cost, and I'm just doing so much at once.
Yeah.
When I watch a thing, and this is how I like to watch things. You know, this is why it's so fun to me.
Sure. Yeah.
But occasionally it just means when you like the same thing when I'll just see that tiny little picture in Kay's car and I'll know so much.
Right.
Like it was another one of those things. She just said these couple of words and I was just like, you know, this much story came out, and so I knew she was a big thing to it, and I was wondering when that was going to come back into it, and it was just a shame. If they'd just tweaked those words, it would have hidden it from me, and that's my fault, not it. So you get that, and obviously at this point you don't know that that's her memory, and that's why she's so shocked by it. He kicks the chair. He's mad as fuck. He thinks he's the, you know, he's the chosen one.
Yeah.
The fucking, you know,
Neo.
The Neo. He thinks he's Neo.
Yeah, and because obviously I didn't get ahead of the story, so I interpreted her crying as that memory as her recognition of him having a real memory and being moved by it. That was my interpretation of it before, you know, the reveal happened.
Yeah, the only thing I couldn't square away when I was assuming it was twins in a Luke and Leia fashion was how only one of them could have hidden a thing, unless she was seeing his memory as a child and hers was a similar life in the slums, or they were separated and she knew it, and you know, there was, you know, in the same way you span out with the joy thing, I was spinning out there and trying to like, and then after a while I just stopped myself trying to get ahead of it and just get back into what it is, you know, what I'm presented with. But anyway, he goes out from there, and I think. Is that when he goes home and Joy's brought the I think they called them something like doxies. The one, doxy.
Okay,
the kind of replicant pleasure bots.
Yeah. Who the main one was in an episode of Black Mirror, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, Mackenzie Davis. I quite like Mackenzie Davis. She's all right. She was in like The Martian and other stuff.
Yeah.
So she's been
never saw The
in
Martian,
various bits and pieces. You should see The Martian.
I would like to see The Martian. I've heard very good things
I would
about
say
it.
read the book. If you're bored and you need a book, read the book. The book to me is so much better than the film. But I really responded to the book. It's one of the few pieces of fiction in the last 5 years that really got me.
Yeah, I remember you talking about it and being kind of surprised that you were so into it.
Yeah, I was way into it.
We've got a scene where he goes downtown and he meets the Doxies, and they're like the madam kind of sends them, or is it the blind replicant?
It's the one-eyed
replicant.
underground lady.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, sends the Doxies over to dox him.
I don't know when that happens, but I think that's happened by this point.
It must have happened by this point, yeah.
And I think after the Wasteland, I think that's when he gets back and Joy's brought Mackenzie Davis in for him. And then the key part of that, I found that scene so charged, where they're trying to sync.
Yes. And kind of the phase, like the out of sync stuff was. Because I thought they were going to get to perfect, and it was going to be, but it was great. I thought it was really well
certain
done.
bits were, but then eyes would move or hair would move, and I thought it was so well done. But the key part of that, and this is again for me, got ahead of it, was the next morning she obviously plants the tracker, which is what you're meant to focus on. Yep. But she picks up the little wooden horse, and she goes, "From the dream."
She does.
Yeah, and I was just kind of like, oh, so all replicants have these memories.
Yeah.
And this is my fault. I get ahead of these things, and I'm like, oh, shit, okay, he's not what he thinks he is. He's not some savior.
No.
And that's going to be fun when they pull the rug out from under this audience. But at that point, I've already noticed it's coming. So this is the thing. I destroy my own enjoyment of these things. But I already, because story structure. But yeah, the stream. I would have just taken that out. I would have had her recognize it, her be shocked, move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then I think he goes looking for Deckard, doesn't he? He goes to see Gaff, and Gaff's still making origami.
Harry Dean Stanton was in the corner.
I thought Harry Dean Stanton was in there. Was he actually in there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Actually, I've still got IMDb open. I wonder if Harry Dean Stanton is...
Is he credited?
No, he's not credited. At least not on the official one. Because he died, didn't he, a while back? And I, like I said earlier, I watched... all of the new Twin Peaks a while back.
Yes.
And he was in that, and it was nice to see him in that just before he died, and he got to do wonderful things in that. And I thought he was in that scene as well. But
I'm pretty sure I saw him, unless it was CG Harry Dean Stanton.
Why would you waste the money?
I know, yeah.
But
I was really worried that they were going to do a CG Rachel, actually, for a while.
Didn't they?
I thought it was a lookalike. Because she didn't look quite right.
This is what I was about to say, because it pulled me out of it so much. Because it was. I mean, it's a pretty good version of it, but I'm pretty sure it's the same technology that got us young
Leia.
Young Leia, or no? Did we get young Leia? Or we did get young Leia?
Yeah.
And young Michael Douglas in Ant-Man, and young
Kurt
Robert Downey
Russell in
Kurt Russell
Guardians 2. Yeah.
with his dimples.
Yeah. So he's just visited Harry Dean Stanton and Edward James Olmos, and you know it's coming if you've seen the original one, but you see Edward James Olmos fiddling under the desk, and he's going to put some origami up there, which was a nice touch. Kind of felt like they had to do that a little bit. And then I'm pretty sure we do head out into the wilderness or into the wasteland.
That's when he goes looking for Deckard. I think there's something else in between, but he definitely goes, because they say something about he might. Does he?
It goes back to it goes back to Batista's place, and
he does. He burns it to the ground.
Burns it to the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, because then he goes to see Robin Wright. He goes to see her, and he says it's done.
Yes.
That's what he says. Don't worry.
He's killed the baby. Yeah.
Yeah, and because he thinks he's the baby at that point, and he wants to live.
Exactly.
And then he heads to Vegas.
Well, doesn't he fail the Voight-Kampff test at that point as well? He's like off baseline, and she gives him 24 hours to. Is that point, or is that later?
Yes, it is. Actually,
it is that point, because I think he's not an officer.
You're way off baseline.
Way
and
off
then he
baseline.
Explains that away as having killed the. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so question for you: was Harrison Ford in Vegas?
I think so. I think you literally drive past. No, he was, because I was about to say. I think you drive past the weirdly the Luxor's still there.
I thought I saw the Luxor too. Yeah.
No, but you definitely see the old MGM Grand, the current MGM Grand.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, it is Vegas.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because you see that steppy, and you see the grotting version of the MGM Grand thing.
Gotcha.
Do you think the dirty bomb? Because they say, a dirty bomb or whatever.
Yeah.
In Vegas, do you think that caused the blackout in LA, because the EMP thing could have gone that far.
It's not that far. Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that, but it's possible. When you hear dirty bomb, you think of conventional, and this is just my understanding of it in today's context, not in a sci-fi context. You think of a conventional explosive packed with radiological material. That's some kind of so there wouldn't necessarily be an EMP associated with that, but it's an interesting thought.
I can't remember whether they say dirty bomb in the film or not.
No, they say it's dirty, don't they? And they say that Vegas is essentially a radiation hot zone.
Yeah, they never say Vegas, but you see a pin on a map, and it's around the right spot.
Yeah.
Which I actually found that, given this week, and like we said earlier on, the Vegas stuff, I actually found it just a little bit tough.
Oh, okay.
In terms of empathy, thinking about Vegas being the subject of something tough,
so horrible, to
deal with, and it's just happening in real life.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, because I like Vegas. I like Vegas.
Yeah.
We've been there together. I found that just a little to deal with. But that's not the film's problem. Again, it's mine. So I just moved past it, and then he lands and he carries on, and I'll let you take it up.
Yeah. So he obviously we land, and there's the bit where he finds the bees, and they're making honey. I presume that it's Harrison Ford's or Deckard's bee colony that he's using to make honey, I suppose.
It's a very specific fandom thing, but I like Sherlock Holmes stuff. And when Sherlock Holmes, quote unquote, retired, he kept bees, and I don't know why I took it as that, a great detective retiring, keeping bees was a kind of that to me was a Sherlock Holmes thing. But I doubt it was, but I kind of dug that it was, because you saw all this happening, on the scanner. It's like, let's go and find out what it is, and it was bees. I kind of dug that.
That was nice, yeah, definitely. And because the way the film's shot and set up is that there's lots of stretches of atmospheric. I played out a little narrative in my head when he found the bees that Harrison Ford only had honey to eat, and he's like this rampant diabetic now, and it's like please tell me you have some crackers or something like that. Just want something savory,
something to spread the honey.
Yeah. He's just gonna eat.
I like that he pulls out that handful of bees.
Yes, yeah.
And I wondered if he was just going to walk around with a handful of bees for a while, and then there was going to be a giant bee punch.
That would have been cool, yeah.
But this is not that film.
No. And then so when he arrives at the, he kind of gets into the hotel, and he sees the dog. I was thinking the dog might attack him. I was thinking it was going to be some kind of replicant type dog, and we never find out whether it's real or not. And
I like that they addressed him. It's like, does it matter?
Does it matter? Yeah. The callback to the whole owl thing in the first one. What did you think of Harrison Ford's performance in this?
He was. I mean, me and Jay have a thing where we call him Old Sulky Guts, because he doesn't if you look at that last Indiana Jones, he didn't want to be there.
No.
And the episode 7 thing was a bit of a shift in that, because it looked like he did
want to be there, but he was but it was almost like at the end of it's like, just kill me. I've had enough.
I'm showing up so you can kill me, and I'm going to enjoy being dead. And so I wondered if they were going to kill him in this.
I wanted to.
But he very much, in the shots, in the trailers and everything, he came out like Old Sulky Guts again. And I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Old Sulky Guts. He just seems like he's happier crashing planes into golf courses than he is on a film set. With his little earring in.
Yeah.
And I just kind of was like, oh, don't be Old Sulky Guts. But it kind of worked. And he didn't feel like Deckard, but he did feel it did work for me. And I kind of dug most of the performance. And spoilers, I know we're already in spoilers, but they didn't kill him.
No.
And I kind of liked that. Because I thought it was just these, because there was only that stretch in the hotel in the film, and I didn't think he was going to make it out that explosion / running through the wall bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was in the trailers.
I was wondering whether he was going to make it out of that too. The moment where I really thought he was going to die in that, and this is jumping forward, but is where they're in the Lady Penelope car, and Kay is holding Love under the water to drown her. I thought he's taken his eye off Deckard, and he's going to turn around and realize Deckard's drowned while he's been killing Love. That was my thought.
Would have been interesting, actually. Would have been a nice way to because how then where'd you go? Like, you have this completely downbeat ending.
Yeah. Director's cut.
Director's cut. He dies in the water.
But going back to Vegas, the tracker comes to fruition, and Love sends her army after him. Basically, sends Wallace's army after him to go and retrieve Deckard. And
we've missed a scene.
Oh, what have
which
we
I
missed?
can I just jump in?
Yes, please
there's
do.
2 things. One, the dog drinking the whiskey.
Fabulous moment.
It
got a laugh.
Whiskey.
It got a laugh.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, we never said this, but I was in a screening that had maybe 3 people in it, and I think one of them walked out halfway through.
There are about 30 in my screening that started at 10:15.
That's not too bad. That's pretty good, and that's a nice amount to judge rather than But there's the bit where Love goes to visit Robin Wright.
Yes.
And you have that weirdly up line where she's like, "Where is he?"
Yeah.
And it was just so set above, like that felt like it boomed from like every speaker in the room.
Yeah.
That
was almost like I felt like, oh, she's using her replicant power to be louder than a human could possibly ever be at that point.
Maybe, yeah. I just thought it was like, because like we were saying earlier, some of the lines felt like they're buried in the mix. They don't matter. That one was there to fucking grab you by the throat.
It was.
And I love the way she callously just fucking banged her off the desk.
Oh, that was amazing. Like she used her face to get it.
Used her dead head.
Dunk. That got a titter as well.
Right. I just love that she just dropped her. Anyway, so she gets to Vegas and like there was a bit of a weird thing here where it was like, okay, so she can't be using the tracker because at this point you don't know who the Mackenzie Davis prostitute is working for.
True. That's a good point. Yeah.
But that tracker is not what's brought her.
No, it's not a Wallace tracker, is it?
It's a police thing, the car or whatever, and so they all arrive, and then he starts killing it, and you get that bad dog or whatever it was thing where she tries to put him down for the first time, which I thought was kind of badass.
Yeah, it was.
I'm just trying to think if I've got any notes left there. You had all the fight between them. I thought was pretty cool. If you want them fighting,
yeah, it's pretty good.
They
didn't last too long, which I liked.
No, which you can't, because in theory, super strong replicants are probably going to best Deckard replicant or Deckard human, depending on which way you look at it.
Yeah.
And you've got all the callbacks, and you've got all the Elvis and everything. And I thought that scene was absolutely great in the way it was lit and shot.
I agree. The only thing that kind of actually the only moment that I was kind of like, set design, the leather on all the couches in the lounge just looked too new.
For Vegas, actually, that's very fair. And there were bags everywhere as well. And I don't know whether people just got evaporated.
Maybe.
But there was luggage everywhere, and I always drew my attention to it. Like, and none of it. Like, I don't know when that dirty bomb, whatever, went off, but it was still just luggage and stuff everywhere. Like people were rushing out, which would be fair, but none of it. Everything was kind of a bit too new.
Yeah.
And the leather in the couch is fair because obviously we've had shows. The only thing, and this actually in terms of the you had the classic Vegas people in that holograph display.
Yep.
And I was thinking, like, because of you and me going there, and the things we haven't done together, I was thinking, like, where are the Penn and Tellers?
I was thinking the same thing. Where's David Copperfield? It's Celine Dion.
David Copperfield, Celine Dion.
Yeah,
yes,
I was thinking
exactly.
the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, because it was like the 60s Vegas. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I did have that. Where's Frank? And then you got Frank in the next scene, which I thought was cool.
That was a great scene.
It would have been good, like the beauty of a Penn and Teller hologram in that moment.
I would have loved that. Yeah. I was very much thinking the same thing. And actually, going back to the new leather, I kind of rationalized it a little bit. That the way I tied it up in my mind was, this casino was built right before the bomb went off.
Fair, could be. I mean, it was a hell of a casino, and it's not one we know. So
yeah, exactly.
It didn't even pretend to be one we know.
No, and I like that. It wasn't like New Caesar's Palace or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just called the Vintage Casino, I think.
Oh, really?
I think that's what it said on the big mat as he walks in, and there was a lot of shot from the Korean-looking symbols on the front.
There were, weren't they? Yeah.
So, but that's the whole world's tied together in different languages and cultures by this point. So
yeah.
Although it's very white. Just to get onto that for a second, it's a very white future.
Yeah, and considering the original, there was a lot of like the Chinese influence. That's a little surprising. That's true. That it's not like there were no characters who were not white, but you're right. That everyone who's kind of forefront in the movie was white. That's true.
Yeah, there was. I mean, you had the Fagin guy, and you had the guy from Dredd, and
Batista, I suppose.
Batista, I suppose, he's Indonesian, isn't he, or something?
Something like that.
He's got a weird.
Yeah,
I know, he's from
mix.
Washington, isn't he?
Yeah,
but like he's got. He's a very yeah.
I'm not sure what his.
Also, to address that, Batista, did you expect him to be in more of the film?
I absolutely did. Yeah.
I was very surprised. Puts on his tiny glasses and dead.
I love the tiny glasses.
I did love that. Like, why has he got the tiny glasses?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Back to the point. Yeah. So you have that. You have the fight, and then they reconcile. They drink the whiskey. They give some to the dog. I liked that he was pouring some out, and I felt like part of him was pouring it out in the same way, like pour some out for my homies. You know, like it was for Rachel.
Yeah,
I
thought that too. Yeah,
and it's very good whiskey. Well, it's not very good whiskey. It's Johnny Walker, which was another branding thing out there. So it's Black Label, which is expensive whiskey, if nothing else.
Okay.
And he pours some out, and I felt like the dog's going for it because he does that.
Yeah.
He pours some out. You know, it doesn't. And clearly there was no. He's the only one in Vegas who's using any of this shit.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's enough of it, and I got the impression that like he not they can live in the wasteland, but it's like there's an acceptable lifespan. So fuck it. Like it doesn't matter that everything's a bit polluted. Let's just get on with it.
Yeah. There was a nice visual moment in that. Before he sees Deckard actually, when he's still walking through the empty hotel, and it's just in the background a bar that's just piled with bottles, empty bottles.
Yeah. Oh, they weren't empty. They
weren't empty. Oh,
it was just a well-stocked bar.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but and so I'm thinking like there's enough places he can go and get more, and he's the only one drinking it. And this town, like just think of the storerooms of that hotel alone.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
There's going to be enough shit.
Yeah.
To keep one man going for a very long time without having to try very hard.
Yeah.
And he's got all his honey as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Filipino and Greek. That's Batista's back.
Oh, really?
Genetic, makeup. His dad's Filipino, his mom's Greek. Or has Greek ancestry.
What a weird combo.
Yeah, he looked very old in this. I thought. I don't know whether that was kind of like deliberate.
Grew his hair back in. Well, I mean, I don't know how old he is. 47, I'd guess.
Probably, yeah.
What does it say in front of you there?
Let me see. He was born in 1969, so 48.
There you go. I was close. That's pretty good. It was interesting because obviously he's an older replicant at this point, even if he hasn't got a death date or whatever. He's been around quite a while. Mm-hmm. And I assume, actually, now I'm thinking about it, was probably part of the resistance as well. He would have to be, wouldn't he?
Absolutely, he was. He talks because he mentions you've never seen a miracle occur.
Yeah,
so,
but that wasn't just about the birth of the baby. That was he's bigger than that. Because I always kept thinking, like, why don't they just let him be a farmer? And like, who's going to tend that farm? Like, there's clearly a lot of like little weird bugs being made for protein on that farm, and that's probably feeding a lot of people. So just let him fucking farm.
Let him be. Exactly.
Anyway, but that's me. Right, where do we go from there?
So from that point, Deckard gets spirited away by the Wallace folks, and Kay gets taken by an as yet unknown group. And there's a moment where he's kind of like in and out of consciousness by a fire, and there's a flying car.
Yeah, it was like that scene in Beavis and Butthead Do America where they meet where they meet themselves. The older versions of themselves, their dads, and they're by that fire. And then there was that, to bring it back to Blade Runner, not Beavis and Butthead Do America, there was that nice transition where the embers of the fire became the lights in Vegas, and it just kind of span around, and then they were back in the
LA.
The weird slums. Yeah,
that was a really pretty moment. I liked that a lot.
It was that whole chunk was wildly unnecessary to me, but then that transition kind of justified all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's in the church, which I assume is a real church, but I didn't know where it was. I don't recognize that church.
I don't either.
Where everything's half in water, and he's learning about the thing. Actually, you know what we didn't address? The bit where Joy is with him in Vegas.
Oh yeah, okay, that's true.
Which was nice, but then he immediately turns her off, doesn't he?
Yes.
As soon as Deckard comes back.
looking at the window, and then Deckard comes back, and he's hearing whatever's coming, or Deckard's kind of figured out that something's coming, and he turns her off, and then we get the moment where Deckard's being taken away, and the Love comes and stamps on the little magic stick.
Yeah, and that's when she dies.
Kills Joy.
You knew it was coming, but that was it all worked. poor old Joy. Anna de Armas was just fucking amazing in this. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Like, she's been in a lot of stuff before. Well, not a lot of stuff. She's been in enough stuff before. Like, I know who she is. Don't mind her. You know, like she was. What was the horror movie she was in with? Not horror movie. The home invasion movie with Keanu Reeves. She was in Knock Knock.
Oh, okay. I remember that.
She was in that.
I don't think I ever saw it.
Yeah, she was in that. She's been in enough stuff where I'm like aware of her, and then I think this is going to be a star-making performance for her. I can imagine her getting any number of offers for franchise jobs off the back of this.
I hope so, because I thought she did a fabulous job.
Yeah, and where her role sits in it and stuff, I think it's wildly important, and the performance, even though we'll undercut it in a minute, like is really good. Anyway, back to the story. So he goes into the underground. Joy's gone. That's the Wild Wild West ending, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though you're probably still an hour from the end.
Yeah.
You know, Deckard's gone, probably to be killed or tortured. Joy's dead. No one's coming in theory to save Kay. Then Wilderness back to LA. Take it up.
So he's tasked, but he ends up talking to this what is apparently a leader of this resistance movement, this underground replicant community, that is kind of had pseudo-religious undertones to me because of the whole referring to Rachel giving birth as a miracle thing. And there's a kind of an expository scene there where she explains everything and kind of tasks him with killing Deckard. That's what he's got to do in order for them to be able to kind of move forward with coming out of the shadows. And then I think right after that happens, don't we go to Wallace Building with Deckard in Wallace's water layer?
Yeah, with CGI or lookalike Rachel / Rita, who comes out and it's like, you can have her if you tell us where they are and how this all worked. And then he's like, her eyes were green, you fucking idiots.
Yeah.
And then they just fucking shoot her.
Yes.
She is completely worthless to them apart from
just blow her brains
for
out.
that purpose.
And there's a little bit of a shock on Deckard kind of has a little bit of a like a shudder or something when the shot happens. Right. And you can kind of tell that there's I think the majority of him is like he knows it's not really Rachel. But there's that emotional side of him that's pulling at his heartstrings and being like, well, but it looks like her and it sounds like her and even though he knows it's not her getting killed still has an impact on him. And I thought that was a really interesting touch.
It was, and for me specifically, like I think their relationship in the first film isn't really one of love; it's more one of passion or lust.
Yeah,
and because they very much retrofitted it into a kind of like undying love in that moment, I was a bit kind of like, I don't know that he would really feel that way about her. I mean, obviously he had a picture of her in his Vegas penthouse, but
yeah. Well, my thought was that we're supposed to infer that there was a decade or something of them being together in hiding, and they became deeply connected in that period that we don't see. That's in between the two films. That was kind of the implication that I got. I
thought they spent less time than that together because obviously the thing on the wood had the date 21, so you've really only got 3 years.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
And I don't know if that was the birth of the child or the death of Rachel.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
And I've got the note deadbeat Deckard dad. Because he says like the kid went into the Oliver Twist, San Diego mine and he said he wasn't around. I couldn't be around. I couldn't know, or whatever. And I got the impression that after that, him and her were very much like the kid went and, Rachel went and he, went off into the wilderness or whatever. Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe you're right. Maybe there is more of that. But I felt this kind of like this true love moment of it, which just didn't quite ring true for me. But it worked to what they were doing.
Sure.
And that was, I was okay with it, but it was just, I just struggled with the fact that he had this, because he's kind of a bit rough with her in the first one.
He is, yeah.
And I struggle with that a little bit, but in that moment, in that scene where you have the digital double or whatever come forward, and she can be yours, you can have her again. I mean, it's kind of creepy because he's so much older and she's exactly the same.
Yeah.
That I just. the scene worked perfectly because it makes you kind of uneasy, and then he's uneasy because he probably still wants that.
Yeah.
But he can't. He knows what they're doing, and they just fucking blow our brains out.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It is for what it is. It is, and
do they like knock him out at the end of that scene? How does that scene end? I can't remember.
He stood there, and they blow our brains out in the distance. I think they might
Just
cut
cuts
away on the blow our brains
Okay,
out. I know,
yeah.
I might be wrong. Maybe they do, but maybe not Joy. Maybe Love does something because obviously she's quite violent. But
Yeah.
I don't think she does. I feel like
I
it
don't
just
think
cuts
so either.
away.
After that, where do we go? Kay is back out in the world, and he is. So his boss is dead already at this point because Love's killed her.
There's definitely that scene of him, like the sort of nihilist scene where he sees Joy, and Joy calls him Joe, and he knows that like this probably ends in death for him, and there's nothing else. I love that because it was all subtext, and it's just like the giant advert Joy I'm talking about turns to him, and it's in the trailers, and it's all kind of purple and pink.
Yeah,
and
great.
It looks amazing. There's so many scenes that are just so bathed in these colors, where it's the orange of the desert or the
Did you see the big Atari logo?
I did see the big Atari logo, which
nice.
bothered me in the trailer, but actually in the film didn't bother me.
I quite liked it.
But anyway, all that happens, and I think it's just like him knowing that like he needs to do this, or he needs to do some version of this, and then there must be something else. But then we're in the Lady Penelope car.
Yes,
because he goes to intersect it, and they're headed. They say, I swear, they say like Los Angeles Airport at some point. They're almost a spaceport maybe. That they're heading off world so they can do the torture and everything.
Yeah, and I guess that the launch site is out at sea because they go over that cool wall that's on the edge. I really like that visual. There's one moment earlier in the film where you just see this sheet of water coming down concrete, and it's and then you see the other side of it, and it's just this kind of crazy Pacific Ocean lapping up against this giant wall that separates it from the city.
I was trying to think. I was trying to think when I saw that where LAX was and how close to the water it was. Whether it was still LAX in terms of
it might
that,
be, and it's just the seas kind of consumed that part of LA.
If you think that's what's going to happen at some point, like in terms of how much of we're going to lose as the ice caps go and everything, like you see these projections of how much of Florida will go and how much of LA will go and New York, and it's probably fair in terms of that.
Yeah,
but let's not get into global warming. But yeah, they take them out and they're not going to make it, and they crash into the water. But I think there's more scenes. But let's
yes, I think so. But we're kind of getting to the right point. Because they turn around and try and come back, and they can't make it over the wall, and end up crashing and skidding onto the edge of where that
where
is washing up.
Tide is very much coming in.
It's way close. Yeah.
Very dark scene.
Very dark scene, but it looks great.
I was just thinking, I'm so glad I didn't see this in 3D because
I bet, the
extra layer of darkness.
Reduction, yeah.
I have absolutely no idea how you go about post-producing the 3D for a scene like that.
No.
Because there's so little, well, there's not so little going on, but there's so little to grab onto to pop out.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's so much darkness that I'm just so glad I didn't go and do the IMAX 3D here. Yeah. Fucking IMAX 2D.
I know, right?
Anyway.
And then so there's that whole scene where Deckard is restrained in the and in the Lady Penelope car, and after they crash, Kay lands and confronts Love, and ends up then that's that moment that I mentioned earlier on where they end up fighting, and he ends up killing her by holding her under the water.
Yeah, she comes back a couple of times in classic horror movie villain, form. We haven't actually said, we jumped past it, but the fact that the bombshell that Harrison Ford drops in Vegas, where it's like, no, there was a daughter.
Yes.
Like, you're not the chosen one. That's where you get the Wild Wild West ending. And that he's, it's not him. It's the doctor, whatever her jobs is in the hermetically sealed pod,
which I still didn't get at that point. I didn't get it until after this scene we're just talking about now, until they landed at that building again, and I was like, oh
really?
That's when I got it.
Wow. They have a sweet fight. He drowns her. I like it when she thinks she's won, and
and
I
kisses
wasn't
him.
sure. She kisses him for no reason. And she either said, I'm the best or I'm the last.
Oh, okay.
But Alex, who went to see it in Spain, where it's subtitled for Spanish, he confirmed that it said, I'm the best.
Okay.
And I really liked that. And I was kind of like, you know what? Yeah, you've earned that.
You are the best.
You are the best. And but then she loses anyway. But then Harrison Ford, like you were saying earlier, maybe he drowns, maybe he doesn't, but they do pull him out.
Yeah.
But then you have that thing of like, he's telling old Kay is telling Deckard, you did die. This is your dead.
This is your death.
And know he's going to take that back to the underground. Maybe he'll work with the underground from this point.
Right.
But Deckard is dead in the same way that he told Robin Wright the child is dead. But there's actually, jump back a piece.
Okay.
There's a thing where Love says they can't lie. When she's talking to Robin Wright, it's like, of course he did. We can't lie, or something like that. And then obviously she can because she's fucking super bitch.
Yeah.
But it was really kind of interesting that like for some reason Kay can, or he has the capacity to put it away in a certain way. I thought that was really interesting, but it was a really small subtextual.
That is interesting. I wonder though if it's like they can't lie and get away with it is kind of the implication there because it throws them off their baseline.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, that's very true, especially if there's a baseline test.
Yeah.
Which maybe not all of them have. I don't know. Do you actually see any other modern replicants doing anything other than hooking?
No, I don't think you do.
You don't see any of them just in the world, do you? Well, you maybe
they're just in the background. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't really even see any other humans. It's quite narrow in that respect.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of other humans, but they're set dressing.
Yeah. Anyway,
lots of busy crowds and stuff. And one of the things that actually, because I thought the same thing jumping back about when he took the car from the LAPD, it seemed to me that in that very early scene where he's walking through and the detective like goes to shoulder check him, everything felt very chaotic.
Yes.
In the PD, and they're like steam cleaning or jet washing the walls and stuff at one point. Just everything seemed very, very
that was
chaotic.
Outside the lab.
Yeah.
The morgue or whatever you want to call it. But it was red as well. It was almost like someone had got in there, and it reminded me of like an animal rights protest.
Yeah.
Like they were spraying like this red, almost spray paint or blood off these walls, and I did wonder what the hell that was. But yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Those little elements. That's what I really liked about it. Just how much scope the world had. Even the original Blade Runner was this much, and then it blows it open to include Vegas and San Diego and all this. Like it goes so much bigger, but still gives you tiny little specific elements where you're like, what the hell was that about?
What's going on there? But it's just like you meant to. In my mind, you meant to accept it as just part of the world. This is something that you don't quite understand, but this is part of the world that we're building, and that you're getting a glimpse of, and I love that. That's one of the things I really like about it. And there's a bit of a reprise of the some of the shots in the snow were really pretty as well, I thought. There's a bit of a shot. There were some bicycles in the background as well, which harkened back to the Chinese women on bicycles in the first one.
I did not notice. Okay, nice. I will look out.
Yep. Definitely look out for that. So we go from the sea wall to do we go directly to
Let's Go and Meet Your Daughter?
Yeah, we do, don't we? Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else in there. It's very much just like that's going to be our ramp up to the ending.
Yes.
And then so we know by this point he's got a giant piece of glass or something in his guts, and he's probably not going to make it. He's covering that up under his sweet jacket, like
kind of hunched over and stuff. Yeah.
How many of those jackets are they going to sell? I mean, come on.
Hot topic.
I imagine a lot of people are buying those jackets.
Yeah.
Hot topic. So he goes to meet his daughter, and that for you, that was where you got it.
That's where I got it. As soon as I saw that building, I was like, okay, all right.
It was nice though, because it was really only two scenes. Where you think you're the center of the universe, but actually it's this person that was a side character, which I thought was nice. But I'd already got it, but yeah, it was nice either way. So you kind of have this thing where you have the speech, and he goes in like, "Why are you doing this? Like, what is in it for you?" He goes in, he goes to meet her. You get almost the handprint on the window. Does Kay die at that point? Because I felt like he dies on those steps.
That's what I think, and because there's the reprise of the Tears in Rain music, and there's big pull out, and then you see him from above, and the snow's falling, and he sees the snowflakes on his hand and stuff, and then he lies back on the steps, and then credits. But I think that is him dying.
Yeah,
that was what I got from it.
You get almost the same that ending from the final cut thing that I really like, where it's that like slow build. You know, there's going to be more after we cut, but we're going to cut. Where he walks up to the glass and she comes up to the glass and he puts her hand on. I don't think he cries, but he's certainly looking sad. Yeah. And then you like bam, and we're out.
Yeah.
And I thought the ending was nicely flat and building, but. I think some people would think it's not enough if they've been in there for 3 hours.
I think you're probably right.
I think, I know because I've had a text from one of them that thought it was boring and it was dog shit.
Yeah, and, that's what my mother thought.
Really? Did she? And that's what I wondered earlier on when you said that.
She's like, so disappointing. And I was like, I loved it. I was sitting right next to her. I was like, it was amazing.
I got a text earlier on that said, did the director even watch the original?
What?
Yeah, it's interesting. But I think this is going to be a very Marmite thing. Yeah, I think it's going to split audiences. I think certain people are going to love it, and a lot of people. I mean, anyone who's seeing it. We're recording this on a Saturday evening. Anyone who saw it tonight, like who went based on hype and based on like I like Ryan Gosling in Crazy Stupid Love. I think that
Han Solo's in it.
Yeah, they're going to fucking hate it, and I think. I fully expect at the moment. I think it's like parity on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to fall for the audience side quite soon.
Okay.
I think it's like 90%, like 85 to 90%, and I expect the audience version to fall and the critic version to stay high, and it'll be one of those ones that splits audiences and critics. And there'll probably be a lot of people online who are kind of like, "No, you just don't get it. You're stupid." And,
nothing comes at night.
Exactly. It's going to be that. It's going to be we should read some reviews.
I was just thinking.
I don't know, we've got time. It's going to split people. It really is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I liked it. I don't do recommendations, but if you're going to see it, let us know if you liked it, I suppose.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear other people's opinions on it, because I think you're right that the fascinating thing about hearing reactions to it is going to be those people who you kind of like aren't sure about. It's like I mean, as well as we know each other, you weren't sure whether I was going to like it, so
I just couldn't. I have no idea with this one. I think it's
So it would be interesting to see how people react to it, because I think it is, and just the idea that people can have such a strong different reaction having watched it exactly the same film is really fascinating, because I don't know. Yeah, am I turning into the Michael Bay fanboy who likes all the Transformers movies just because they're Transformers movies? I don't think so. I liked this movie on its merits. To me, it was good. But yeah, I like you. I don't tend to do recommendations, and I don't think I could recommend this to anyone, because if you don't like atmospheric, world building, kind of got to get into it type movies, then it's not for you.
Which is weird, because we both liked it so much.
Yeah.
But we can't, because we both know how much maybe this isn't mainstream movie making, even at, the level it's at.
Yeah.
It's weird to be able to say we couldn't tell people to go and see it.
It is. Yeah. Because just thinking about talking to people at work on Monday, there's one guy at work who I could probably say, yeah, you're going to either hate or love this, but I know you'll at least sit through it. That there are there's other people's that I know who I'm just thinking they might get up and walk out.
Yeah, I think so too. I was saying the same thing. People were like, how did you like it? And I was like, I liked it a lot, but and you can just see it coming, I think, with this one, where it's going to be, especially considering how many times it's already been called a masterpiece, how many times before release it was called a masterpiece, that it's going to turn,
it's
at some
going to rub
point.
people the wrong way as well.
Whether it's expectation, or whether it's going to rub people the wrong way, or whether people are just going to get bored because of the length and they've been in there and they had the big tango,
Yeah.
I just it'd be really interesting to see how this one plays out. And I just hope the the people who liked it like us don't turn on the people who didn't online, but they will. It's online, that's what happens. But yeah, I'm going to see it again tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
And
I'm thinking about going to see it again already. I only saw it
Yeah.
last night, and I kind of want to go see it again.
I think there's so much more in it to unpack. We'll probably pick up on this later, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot going on in it, and I hope people who do go and see it, who in theory are the people listening to this because they've stuck with us for a horrendous length of time, enjoyed it and are interested in other people's opinions on it, whether they liked it or not.
Yeah, me too. I agree.
You're out there somewhere, Beer Baron, and I'll find you.
No, you won't.
Yes, I will.